If you're a fan of any of these horrendous teams, you experienced firsthand just how bad their luck has been. We're talking losing 4 Super Bowls in a row, making a trade so bad that you basically get nothing, while the other guys win 3 Super Bowls. And the Browns? Well, the Browns. It might just seem that these franchises are cursed. Let's take a look at the NFL's most haunted franchises, starting with the Bills. The Buffalo Bills have a special talent for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. No team in NFL history has come so close to glory so many times only to watch it slip through their fingers. Let's start with their defining moment of pain, Super Bowl 25. The Bills were riding high after demolishing the Raiders 51-3 in the AFC Championship. The stage was set for Buffalo's first championship since their AFL days in the mid-60s. Down by a single point, with seconds remaining, all they needed was a 47-yard field goal to win. Scott Norwood lined up, the world held its breath, and then, wide right. Those 2 words still make Bills fans flinch like someone mentioning their ex's name.
A lot of pressure. You want to talk about a pressure situation. Snap, spot, in the air. It's got the distance. It is. No good.
But this was just the opening act. The Bills went on to somehow lose 3 more Super Bowls in a row, becoming the only team in NFL history to do so. In total, those 4 Super Bowls saw them outscored by more than 60 points. The second game even had Thurman Thomas, their star running back, missing the opening plays because he couldn't find his helmet.
Kenneth Davis was supposed to run the ball, which makes us ask, what's wrong with Thurman Thomas?
You know, I mean, this is the biggest game of your career and you don't have your helmet?
The universe seemed to be sending a message. Then came the Music City Miracle in 2000, a 75-yard lateral on a kickoff return that handed the Titans a playoff victory with seconds left. Bills fans still argue it was a forward pass. Officials disagree. The curse continued. Even their biggest star couldn't escape the shadow. O.J. Simpson, their superstar running back in the 70s, would later become infamous for something much darker than football failures. His white Bronco chase and the trial that followed left a permanent stain on the franchise's history. Even when you look at it today, yeah, they have Josh Allen, the reigning MVP, but since 2020, he lost 4 playoff games to Patrick Mahomes, the first QB in history to suffer a fate like that. And look how the games are ending too. The 2021 AFC Championship game saw them lose in overtime after 13 seconds of defensive collapse. In 2024, another heartbreaking 32-29 loss to the Chiefs. The Bills are basically the poster child for what could have been, and their fans are still waiting for that moment when things finally break their way. But if the Bills wrote the book on playoff heartbreak, the Vikings added a bunch of chapters of their own. They're the team with the best win percentage among clubs that have never won a Super Bowl, which is like being valedictorian of summer school. Basically, they're good enough to give their fans hope, then skilled enough at disappointment to take it all away. The Vikings turned losing Super Bowls into an art form in the 1970s, dropping 4 of them in 8 years. But their most infamous moment of cursed history came off the field in 1989. The team traded for Herschel Walker, expecting a superstar running back. What they got was the worst trade in NFL history.
How you feeling about the deal?
Well, I think it was a great deal for both parties. And, I think you can't pick a better team to go to than the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to miss Dallas a great deal. There's a lot of people here that I really love, I really respect.
They shipped out 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and enough other assets to fill a moving van. Walker played mediocre football, while Dallas used those picks to build a dynasty that won 3 Super Bowls. Minnesota fans watched their future get traded for a guy who rushed for 1,000 yards exactly once. But it's hard to beat what happened in 1998 when their kicker Gary Anderson, who hadn't missed a field goal all season, lined up for a 38-yard field goal in the NFC Championship, and with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line, the kick, of course, went wide left.
That'll bring on Anderson. And Anderson hasn't missed in 2 years.
Probably yes.
39 yards away. Not good.
The Falcons scored in overtime. Anderson's perfect season ended with the only miss that mattered. Anderson's miss was a punch straight to the family jewels. But sometimes the Vikings get creative with their own misfortune. There was the 2003 draft, where they forgot how clocks work, letting their pick expire and watching 2 teams jump ahead of them.
Come on, Pete, the time's run out.
All right, Minnesota temporarily passes. The third choice is Houston, obtained from a trade with Minnesota. So Houston is now up.
Their head coach Mike Tice got fined $100,000 for scalping Super Bowl tickets. Running back Ontario Smith got caught at an airport with a device designed to fool drug test, complete with fake urine and artificial body parts. And who could forget the Love Boat scandal of 2005? 17 Vikings players rented boats on Lake Minnetonka for what turned into a floating party that shocked the crew and made headlines nationwide. Even when they land genuine superstars, the curse holds strong. Adrian Peterson, most likely the best running back of all time, rushed for 2,097 yards in 2012, coming within 8 yards of the all-time record. He won MVP that year, dragging the Vikings to the playoffs through sheer willpower. His 2012 season is among the greatest by any running back ever, but in the wildcard round, they lost to the Packers. The Vikings couldn't build a championship team around one of the most dominant running backs in NFL history. If that doesn't prove you're cursed, nothing will. The Jets take cursed to a whole new level. While other teams struggle to win championships, the Jets seem determined to embarrass themselves in the most creative ways possible. Their last Super Bowl victory came in the 1968 season when Joe Namath guaranteed a win. Since then, they treated their fans to 5 decades of comedy gold. Let's start with their draft decisions. In 1983, the Jets had a shot at Dan Marino, a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Instead, they picked Ken O'Brien. Marino went 5 picks later to the Dolphins and proceeded to shatter passing records. O'Brien, he had a decent career that nobody remembers. The Jets basically passed on Michael Jordan to draft a guy named Steve. Sometimes though, it seems like the universe itself conspires against them.
Quick drive of 64 yards gets Denver right back into the game. It's bouncing back, loose ball.
In the 1998 AFC Championship, a mysterious gust of wind blew during kickoff, pushing the ball away from the returners and ultimately allowing Denver to recover the ball. They were up 10-7 at that point in. The Jets lost 23-10. They literally got beaten by the weather. The following year, you would think the universe would be somewhat kind after 3 decades of misfortunes and the AFC Championship loss. But the following years would go on to be even more miserable for Jets fans. It started with the passing of beloved Jets owner Leon Hess. Then their star quarterback Vinny Testaverde would go on and tear his Achilles. Star wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson leaves, followed by head coach Bill Parcells. It didn't stop there. The mess that is Woody Allen would go on and buy the team. We all know how that has worked out in retrospect. Their coaching carousel is like a carnival ride gone wrong. In 2000, they introduced Bill Belichick as their head coach. Maybe the turnaround Jets fans have been praying for years had finally arrived? Wrong. 24 hours later, Belichick resigned by scribbling his notice on a napkin. He joined the Patriots and won 6 Super Bowls. The Jets have gone through 9 head coaches since then, but nothing spells New York Jets misery quite like the butt fumble. On Thanksgiving 2012, quarterback Mark Sanchez ran into his own lineman's backside, fumbled the ball, and watched the Patriots score. Their fans have suffered through meltdowns of all varieties. In 1994, Dan Marino faked a spike and threw a game-winning touchdown while Jets defenders stood frozen. In 1988, after getting thumped by the Bills, frustrated fans actually set parts of Giants Stadium on fire. The team's kicker, Doug Bryan, missed 2 game-winning field goals in the 2004 playoffs. Even when they swung for the fences by acquiring Aaron Rodgers in 2023, Rodgers immediately tore his Achilles tendon and missed the season.
Protection breaks down and time runs out. Down goes Rodgers and the sack for Leonard Floyd.
Then after a disappointing 2024 where he couldn't recapture his former magic, the team cut him loose. Not exactly the Manning or Brady style second team magic they were hoping for. At this point, Jets fans don't expect victories. They expect new and innovative ways to lose, and we feel for them. But if the Jets are cursed, the Browns live in a permanent nightmare. Where to start with this thing? Cleveland's misery runs so deep that one fan literally has a jersey listing all 40 quarterbacks since the team's 1999 rebirth, like a kind of war memorial. The modern Browns entered the NFL with a bang, or more accurately, a whimper. Their first game back in 1999 against the Steelers ended 43-0. Welcome back to the NFL, Cleveland. Things only got worse from there. In 2003, Jamal Lewis ran for 295 yards against them, setting the single-game rushing record at the time. The Browns managed to give up 500 total rushing yards to Lewis that season. Think about that. 1,000 yards is still the benchmark for a great rushing season, and the guy had half of that in just a couple of games against the Browns. In the 2001 Bears game, They blew a 14-point lead in the final 48 seconds. The Bears threw a Hail Mary, scored a deflected touchdown, then won in overtime. Then you got the infamous game against the Jaguars. The Browns converted a crucial 4th down, but officials reviewed and overturned the play after Cleveland had already run another play. This violated NFL rules since reviews can only happen on the most recent play. In 2016, they managed to improve from a 1-15 season to going 0-16 the next year. They became the second team in NFL history to lose every game. The reward? Another chance to mess up the #1 draft pick. Late game collapses became their specialty. They blew a 17-point lead against the Steelers in the 2003 playoffs. They lost on a kick-6 return against the Ravens in 2016, but nothing stings quite like watching Baker Mayfield thrive in Tampa Bay. The Browns drafted him 1st overall, made him their franchise quarterback, then let him walk. Since then, they started 11 different quarterbacks while Mayfield leads playoff charges for the Buccaneers. Meanwhile, Cleveland's stuck with Deshaun Watson's massive contract and legal troubles, even though they're probably not playing him again. The Browns don't need an exorcism. They need a time machine to undo 2 decades of football decisions. Chicago Bears fans know disappointment like Packers know cheese. While Jacksonville wastes opportunities, the Bears specialize in spectacular collapses that leaves their fans wondering why they bothered getting excited in the first place. The Bears wrote the book on historic humiliation back in 1940. They lost the NFL championship to Washington 73-0. That's not a typo. 73-0. It remains the most lopsided defeat in league history, like watching your grandmother get knocked out by Mike Tyson. But modern Bears history revolves around their eternal torment at the hands of Aaron Rodgers. November 9th, 2014, at Lambeau Field was rock bottom. Already coming off a 51-23 thrashing in New England, the Bears faced a red-hot Packers team. Rodgers threw 6 touchdown passes in the first half alone. 6. The Bears trailed 42-0 at halftime and eventually lost 55-14, their second consecutive 50-point beatdown. Then there's Rodgers to Cobb, 3 words that still trigger Bears fans everywhere. The 2013 season finale against Green Bay for a playoff spot. Bears leading 28-27 with under a minute left. 4th and 8 for the Packers. Victory seemed certain until safety Chris Conte missed the defensive audible to an all-out blitz. Rodgers found Randall Cobb for 48 yards. Game over. Playoff dreams shattered. The Bears mastered the art of false hope. Start 7-1 in 2012, finished 10-6, and missed playoffs. Began 7-3 in 2011, collapsed to 8-8, kick off 2014 at 3-3, implode to 5-11, with teams accusing each other of quitting. Even their kickers joined the curse. Cody Parkey hit the upright 4 times in one game against Detroit in 2018. Then in the playoffs, he outdid himself with the double doink, hitting both upright and crossbar on a game-winning field goal attempt. And if their kickers were cursed, their quarterbacks have a special cursed place on them. Not only have they had 30 QBs over the last 30 years, but the city of Chicago have now officially produced a pope before they produced a 4,000-yard passer in the NFL. You read that right. The Bears still haven't had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards in their entire history. Last season, they drafted Caleb Williams for 1st overall, while Washington took Jaden Daniels 2nd. Daniels proceeds to have arguably the greatest rookie quarterback season ever, while Williams struggled to adapt. But the Detroit Lions make the Bears' quarterback woes look like a minor inconvenience. Believe it or not, the Lions won 4 world championships in the pre-Super Bowl era. Things were good in the Motor City, up until their last championship. The legend goes that when they traded their star QB Bobby Lane to the Pittsburgh Steelers, he put a curse on the Lions, famously saying that the Lions wouldn't win a championship in 50 years. That curse still haunts the franchise to this day. Throughout the 60s and 70s, they made the playoffs once, losing 5-0 against the Cowboys. Then in the 80s, it started to turn around, with superstar running back Billy Sims taking them to their first playoff game in a decade, which they of course lost. But the curse would strike again in 1984 as Sims went down with a career-ending knee injury, leaving them hapless again. Even their superstars couldn't handle the misery. Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs ever, faxed his retirement notice to his hometown newspaper. He walked away at 31, just 1,458 yards shy of breaking Walter Payton's rushing record.
Ironic, Barry Sanders' father thinks Jim Brown is the greatest running back of all time. 34 years ago, Brown retired suddenly in the prime of his career. Ditto Barry Sanders.
He had grown tired of carrying the franchise on his back throughout the 80s and early 90s. Then came the 2000s and Matt Millen. From 2001 to 2008, Millen transformed the Lions into a masterclass in incompetence. He drafted bust after bust: Charles Rogers, Roy Williams, Mike Williams, while becoming the first GM ever fined for violating the Rooney Rule. His reign inspired actual street protest. 1,000 fans gathered in downtown Detroit for the Millen Man March, and naturally, the Lions lost that game too. His tenure peaked with the 2008 season, when Detroit became the first team in NFL history to go 0-16.
The Lions have only one playoff win in 50 years.
The perfect symbol of that season, quarterback Dan Orlovsky running out of his own end zone while fleeing Jared Allen, giving up a safety in the process. They lost that game 12-10. The margin of defeat? Yeah, that's safety. Their playoff disasters became legendary. The 1993 NFC Championship saw Brett Favre throw a touchdown to an uncovered Sterling Sharp. In 2010, the Calvin Johnson rule robbed them for a touchdown catch. In 2015, officials missed an illegal batting call that cost them the victory against Seattle. Fast forward to today, the Lions finally built a powerhouse. They've got Sonic and Knuckles breaking records. They made the 2023 NFC Championship, ending decades of playoff futility. They led the 49ers by 17 points, then watched it evaporate. In 2025, they're one of the NFL's best teams again, yet still can't close the deal. The Lions have evolved from lovable losers to legitimate contenders, but the curse feels like it's still there. They're proof that sometimes building a great team isn't enough. Destiny has other plans. The Cincinnati Bengals have turned playoff collapses into an art form that would make the Lions blush. They're the team that finds new ways to lose games that seem impossible to lose, then somehow tops themselves the next time they get a chance. Their most spectacular meltdown came in the 2015 playoffs against Pittsburgh. With 1:36 left, Vontaze Burfict intercepted a pass. The Bengals led by a point and had a 95.9% win probability. They were about to end a 7-game playoff losing streak stretching back to 1990. Then Jeremy Hill fumbled on the very next play. As if that wasn't enough, Burfict and Adam Pac-Man Jones got hit with back-to-back 15-yard penalties, gifting the Steelers perfect field position.
It's been in so many different places tonight. Fans cheering the fact that he was injured. There have been a couple of times tonight you've wanted to use the word disgraceful.
Pittsburgh kicked the game winner with 18 seconds left. Peak Bengals. And don't forget, in 1975, Paul Brown passed over Bill Walsh for head coach. Walsh went to San Francisco and built a dynasty while beating Cincinnati in 2 Super Bowls. Then in 1985, the Bengals got to draft 3 picks before the 49ers and could have taken Jerry Rice. They of course didn't. The 1999 draft provided another masterpiece of self-destruction. With 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 11 picks, Cincinnati chose Akili Smith, 3rd overall. They turned down a trade offer from New Orleans, 9 draft picks across 2 years, to stick with Smith. He started 17 games, threw 5 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, and was gone in 4 years. When they finally built a winner, disaster struck. Carson Palmer's breakout 2005 season earned them the first playoff berth in 15 years. On his very first pass of the playoff game, Palmer's knee got destroyed by Kimo von Oelhoffen.
They go to the 3-receiver set, bringing in Chris Henry. Going for the deep ball, looking for Johnson, he's under it, and taken off down the sideline, down to the 23 of Pittsburgh. And Palmer was walloped after the throw.
ACL and MCL torn. Season over. Then in the 2006 offseason, they had 9 players arrested. Chris Henry alone had 4 separate incidents, including pulling a gun on people in Orlando. They went from 11-5 to 8-8. And missed the playoffs. Now they have Joe Burrow, possibly the best quarterback in football, coupled with Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver in football. They made the Super Bowl in 2022 and nearly won it, yet somehow they still can't sustain success. Last year, Burrow played at an MVP level, but they still missed the playoffs. The Bengals don't rebuild, they just reload their heartbreak cannon. From wide right to double doinks, these teams have turned agony into identity. Some curses might be breaking, like the Lions finally looking good and the Bills contending, but history suggests the football gods aren't finished yet. But I want to know your thoughts. Which team do you think is the most cursed in NFL history?